Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, 1944 to 1987-1990 UAP and nuclear infrastructure in Washington State. So what do our cosmic visitors actually want with our nuclear toys? Are they stopping by to check on us out of pure neighborly friendship? Or are they just worried we're going to blow up the entire block? To answer that, I added a little bit of a witty twist for today's episode, because let's be honest, if you're going to talk about atomic age paranoia, secret government reservations, and stealthy flying orbs, you might as well have a little fun while decoding why the universe keeps staring at our doomsday stash. The atomic babysitters, why UFOs are obsessed with Washington's nuclear stash. If you ever want to understand why national security and high strangeness go together in the Pacific Northwest like craft IPA and flannel, you don't need to look at modern tech campuses or damp hiking trails. You just need to stare out across the sun-baked, tumbleweed-choked expanse of southeastern Washington. Long before modern ufology became a global pastime, complete with podcasts, conventions, and terrible t-shirts, the U.S. government carved out a massive, top-secret nuclear reservation right along the banks of the Columbia River, the Hanford site. And from the exact moment it broke ground, it became an irresistible magnet for things that flat-out refused to respect the laws of physics or restricted airspace. 1. Hanford, where we made plutonium and invited the cosmos over. Established in 1943 as a core pillar of the Manhattan Project, Hanford was wrapped in a fortress of secrecy, so tight it would make a medieval warlord jealous. Its singular, terrifyingly important mission was industrial-scale plutonium production. By the end of World War II, Hanford manufactured nearly two-thirds of all the plutonium used in the American arsenal, including the core material for the Trinity test down in New Mexico and the Fat Man bomb dropped on Nagasaki. Because the site held the keys to the atomic kingdom, it was arguably the most heavily guarded, no-fly zone on Earth. And as history proved, that is precisely why the cosmic tourists decided to drop by. Popular history loves to pin the birth of the modern UFO era on Kenneth Arnold's June 24, 1947, sighting of flying saucers skipping like flat stones over Mount Rainier just west of Hanford. But if you talk to the military police and security guards shivering in the watchtowers of the Hanford Reservation, you'd find out that Arnold was fashionably late to the party. The early birds, confidential security logs, and declassified military archives prove that anomalous sightings over Hanford predate Arnold's flight by years. As early as 1944, security guards were filing frantic reports detailing silent, geometric anomalies violating wartime airspace above the nation's most sensitive plutonium production reactors. Let's be clear, these weren't stray domestic biplanes, migrating geese, or meteorological weather balloons. They were silent, geometric anomalies brazenly violating wartime airspace above the nation's most sensitive military asset. It turns out that the moment humanity cracked open the atom, we didn't just win a world war. We officially caught the attention of whatever is flying this sector of the galaxy. And they've been hovering over our nuclear laundry ever since. Total Air Force humiliation. As the Cold War escalated through the late 1940s and early 1950s, the frequency of these incursions turned Hanford into a literal aerial chessboard. When massive, silent, glowing orbs or colossal oval-shaped craft appeared on radar screens hovering near the production facilities, the military did not hesitate. Interceptor aircraft were routinely scrambled from nearby airfields to chase down the intruders. The encounters, however, routinely ended in total humiliation for the U.S. Air Force. Pilots reported that these anomalous objects possessed flight characteristics that completely shattered contemporary aviation limits. They could accelerate instantly to blinding speeds, execute impossible right-angle turns without losing momentum, and routinely evade or jam ground an airborne radar tracking systems. They operated with the casual arrogance of a guest who knew the host couldn't do a single thing about it. The green fireballs. By the late 1940s and 1950s, Hanford wasn't just dealing with silent orbs, it was ground zero for the infamous green fireball luminous. Emerald-colored phenomena streaking across the southwestern and northwestern skies at terrifying speeds, defying every known law of meteorology. These events were mirrored simultaneously across other sacred nodes of the American nuclear triad, including the Oak Ridge Reservation in Tennessee and Los Alamos in New Mexico. The message written across the sky was unmistakable. Whoever or whatever was piloting these craft had a deeply vested, obsessive interest in America's atomic capabilities. The legacy persists even today, decades after plutonium production officially ceased and Hanford transitioned into a massive environmental cleanup site. The legacy persists. Modern civilian and worker reports continue to bubble up around the perimeter of the vast reservation. Low-altitude encounters, including harrowing moments where facility workers and locals have tracked massive, silent, cigar-shaped objects gliding just above the sagebrush, prove that the ET vibe of southeastern Washington never really went away. It just changed uniforms. 2. Naval Base Kitsap Bangor, where submarines meet sci-fi submersibles. If the Hanford site is where America went to landlock its atomic ambitions in a cloud of desert paranoia, the Pacific Northwest has an equally terrifying coastal counterpart. Tucked neatly along the heavily forested shores of Puget Sound, Naval Base Kitsap Bangor is not your average sleepy naval outpost. It is a critical, hyper-classified linchpin of global geopolitics and one of the most intensely guarded military zones on Earth. And as military history and modern ufology consistently prove, wherever humanity hoards enough thermonuclear firepower to ruin the planet 3 times over, the anomalous phenomena are never far behind to watch the show. The Trident Fleet. Nestled along the dark glacial waters of the Hood Canal in western Washington, Bangor serves as the primary Pacific home port for the U.S. Navy's elite fleet of Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines, SSBNs. Commissioned during the peak of the Cold War and continuously upgraded, these submerged Leviathans carried Trident to intercontinental ballistic missiles. Let's be entirely frank. A single one of these Ohio-class subs packs enough thermonuclear punch to completely redesign the geopolitical map, leaving several continents looking like a smoking crater. Because Bangor houses one of the largest single concentrations of active nuclear warheads on the planet, it is sealed off tighter than a maximum security vault, complete with strict airspace bans, heavily armed coastal patrols, and underwater defense grids that would make a James Bond villain jealous. The Puget Sound Marine Air Corridor. Yet, for all the razor wire, armed guards, and classified perimeters, the Navy cannot put a keep-out sign on the laws of physics or the ancient weirdness of the Pacific Northwest. Bangor sits dead center in the Puget Sound Marine Air Corridor, a region saturated with historical indigenous legends and decades of modern reports detailing anomalous lights, silent craft, and mysterious waterborne phenomena. Because the base hugs the water's edge, it has quietly transformed the Kitsap Peninsula into a premier hotspot not just for UFOs, but for USOs, unidentified submerged objects. USOs in action. For generations, military personnel, commercial fishermen, and coastal locals have logged baffling encounters with luminous submerged things streaking through the deep water of Puget Sound at impossible speeds. Even better, these objects frequently don't bother stopping at the surface. They transition seamlessly from the dark water straight up into the overcast northwest skies without breaking stride, leaving baffled sailors wondering if the laws of aerodynamics are just a gentle suggestion. This bizarre convergence of deep water transit, strategic nuclear ordnance, and transmedium acrobatics at Kitsap Bangor is far too consistent to write off as a series of optical illusions or swamp gas. It mirrors a globally documented pattern. UAPs and USOs exhibit a downright obsessive interest in human nuclear infrastructure. Think about the hits. The historic 1967 incident at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, where a glowing red orb lazily hovered over a missile silo and systematically disabled 10 active Minuteman nuclear missiles just for fun. Or modern encounters where U.S. Navy strike groups off both coasts have been routinely swarmed by high-speed, transmedium tic-tac craft that treat our multi-billion-dollar aircraft carriers like curious toys. Whether they are monitoring America's plutonium manufacturing inland at Hanford or tracking the silent prowling of ballistic missile submarines in the glacial depths of Puget Sound, whatever is piloting these craft treats are atomic toys with intense, calculated curiosity. At Naval Base Kitsap Bangor, the Cold War never really ended. It simply evolved into a theater where human atomic ambition crashes headfirst into the silent, baffling reality of transmedium intelligence, proving that even at the bottom of the ocean, we are never truly alone. 3. The Cosmic Neighborhood Watch. Why non-human intelligences are obsessed with our nuclear toys. If you pull back and map out the geopolitical hotspots of the 20th and 21st centuries, a rather striking pattern emerges. The global footprint of the UFO and UAP phenomenon does not scatter randomly across the globe like confetti. It clusters with laser-like precision around sacred nodes of atomic energy. From the remote, plutonium-soaked sagebrush of Washington State's Hanford site and the ballistic submarine pens of Naval Base Kitsap Bangor, down to the missile silos of Montana and the secret labs of Los Alamos, the correlation between high-security nuclear infrastructure and weird, unexplainable aerial behavior is simply too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. Why are silent orbs, transmedium craft, and glowing green fireballs utterly fixated on humanity's absolute deadliest weapons? Ufologists, historians, and researchers generally point to two major explanatory frameworks for this ongoing atomic age obsession. The cosmic babysitter hypothesis, a prominent, slightly chilling hypothesis circulating within serious ufological research, suggests that whatever is piloting these craft looks at humanity's violent entry into the atomic age as a critical evolutionary threshold, not just for our survival, but for the entire planetary biosphere. According to this perspective, splitting the atom and developing thermonuclear weapons represents the exact moment a developing civilization transitions from being a regional nuisance into an existential planetary threat. Before 1945, human conflicts were brutally destructive, but they were chemically contained. Once we unlock the fundamental binding energy of the cosmos, we suddenly possess the mechanical means to completely sterilize our home planet. Proponents of this view argue that the sudden aggressive surge of UFO sightings over secret facilities like Hanford in 1944 and 1945 wasn't an accident. The phenomenon manifested precisely because humanity had crossed a dangerous line. In essence, our atomic tests and plutonium stockpiles acted like a cosmic flare, signaling to whoever is watching that our technical ingenuity had officially outpaced our collective wisdom. The interstellar pit stop hypothesis. While the philosophical caretaker hypothesis paints a picture of concerned cosmic babysitters, a more technical physical school of thought looks at the sheer energetic output of nuclear infrastructure. Nuclear reactors, enrichment centrifuges, and high-yield strategic warheads are absolute powerhouses of invisible energy. They generate immense localized electromagnetic fields, EMFs, intense thermal signatures, and unique configurations of radioactive isotopes that light up instruments like a Christmas tree. Modern researchers exploring advanced plasma physics and interdimensional models suggest that anomalous craft may not be running on diesel, jet fuel, or even standard rocket propulsion. Instead, they operate via localized field mechanics, drawing upon, manipulating, or feeding off high-energy electromagnetic environments. To an intelligence utilizing plasma-based or field propulsion systems, a nuclear reactor, or a cache of Trident missiles, may look less like a weapon of war and more like an intellectual beacon or an interplanetary pit stop. Whether you view these visitors as concerned cosmic guardians keeping an eye on our dangerous atomic adolescence, or as scientific observers simply drawn to the electromagnetic signatures of our most powerful technologies, one thing remains painfully clear. The history of nuclear weapons and the history of the UFO phenomenon are inextricably, permanently bound together. As long as humanity maintains its doomsday arsenals tucked away in the Puget Sound or ticking quietly inside desert reservations, the silent watchers will remain on the perimeter. They are a perpetual reminder that in the grand scale of the universe, our greatest technological triumphs are also our most profound vulnerabilities. The ultimate nuclear roommates. So where does that leave us? Whether you look at Washington State's sun-baked Hanford Reservation or the dark submarine-patrolled waters of Puget Sound, one undeniable truth remains. Humanity has some very strange, very persistent, and completely uninvited neighbors. We spent the better part of the 20th century building the ultimate apocalyptic timeout corner, stuffing plutonium, enrichment centrifuges, and enough thermonuclear warheads to turn several continents into glowing glass, only to discover we had accidentally turned on the cosmic bat signal. Whether these silent pilots are acting as concerned cosmic babysitters, making sure the toddlers don't eat the nuclear Tide Pods, or just interdimensional gearheads stopping by for a free electromagnetic recharge, the message is loud and clear. They aren't going anywhere. So the next time you're driving through the Hanford sagebrush and catch a glimpse of a glowing orb doing impossible 90-degree turns over the Columbia River, don't panic. Just wave hello to the room service. After all, in the grand, chaotic sitcom of the cosmos, we may be the ones holding the doomsday keys, but make no mistake, the universe is definitely the one managing the lease. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archived Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.